Hi everyone, welcome to Surds City, aka my garage. Today we are looking at three pretty simple problems for simplifying surds, just to help you prepare for the test next week and make sure you've got those core skills really locked down. We're going to look at finding the square root of 60, so simplifying by taking out any square numbers that we have as factors. Same deal for the second one, but we're also going to have to combine some adding of like terms as well. And for the third question, we'll throw some multiplication into the mix as well. Let us begin. All right, so the first little question here is to simplify the square root of 60. Now, remember that when we're simplifying square roots like this, what we intend to do is remove as many square number factors of the given number as possible. So to help kickstart your brain, if it's not coming to mind straight away, you could start by listing the factor pairs of the number. So in this case, 60, we've got 1 and 60, 2 and 30, 3 and 20, 4 and 15. And you could keep going, but at this point I'd go, well, I've got 4 as a square number just here. I know that that will fit into 60 15 times. You could also think about, and probably you could do this right from the beginning, but this is to show you where these factor pairs come from. You could think, well, my other square numbers that are larger than 4, we've got 9. 9 won't fit into 60, neither will 16, neither will 25, neither will 36. So 4 seems like it'll be the biggest square number that will fit into 60. But if you get stuck, listing the factor pairs can help you to come to that realization, hopefully. Okay. So what I'm going to do is rewrite the square root of 60 as 4 multiplied by 15, or the square root of 4 multiplied by 15, because that's going to allow me to find the square root of, and I'll rewrite this another way just to show you where this comes from. You can say the square root of a times b is equal to the square root of a times the square root of b. So it's okay to separate them. That's totally within the laws of the Republic of Surds, which is a real place that I definitely didn't just make up. Okay, so what that allows us to do is split it up into square root excuse me, of 4 multiplied by the square root of 15. Square root of 4 is going to give us 2, so our answer becomes 2 times the square root of 15. Now this part of the question we can't simplify anymore. The reason being that if we look at the factor pairs of 15, we've got 1 and 15, 3 and 5, and that's it. None of those are square numbers, so we can't reduce this down in the same way. So 2 square root 15 is our final answer. Okay, so normal adding like terms rules apply when dealing with surds as well. If, for example, we had 3 lots of the square root of 3 and we added onto that 2 lots of the square root of 3, we would have in total 5 lots of the square root of 3. You're allowed to add those together because you're adding the exact same type of thing. You're adding lots of the square root of 3. It's like adding like terms in algebra. So you look at this question, and it'd be very tempting to say, I can't add those two together because they're different things. But what we do with these surd questions is simplify each of these first and then see if we come up with a like term that we can then combine. Spoiler alert, that almost always will be a like term to combine because that's what's intended in the question. But not always. You might say unable to simplify sometimes. But anyway, so I'm going to do the same thing for this question. But I'm going to not so much skip a step, I'm just going to think out loud instead of writing everything down. So I've got square root of 8, square numbers that fit into 8. Well, I've got 4, and that will go into 8 twice. So I'm going to rewrite that as 4 times 2, the square root of 4 times 2. I'm going to add on to that. I'm going to do the same thing with 18. Think of a square number that fits into it. So 9 will fit into 18, it will fit into it twice. So that becomes square root of 9 times 2. Same thing again, I'm going to make the square root of 4 into a 2 because the square root of 4 is 2. So 2 multiplied by the square root of 2 plus 3 multiplied by the square root of 2. And a like term situation has presented itself. Yes, thank you, Lord of Mathematics. Okay, so we've got 2 lots of the square root of 2 plus 3 lots of the square root of 2. We can add those together because they're like terms. That will give us 5 lots of the square root of 2. Question 2 complete. Alrighty, last question. So this throws a little bit of multiplication into the mix. This time we've got 2 square root of 3 multiplied by 3 square root of 15. So remembering that when we multiply, we can really write the numbers in any order that we want to, as long as they're being multiplied by one another. So this really reads as 2 times the square root of 3 times 3 times the square root of 15. So it's multiplied all together. So I'll do for this one, I'll write it as 2 multiplied by 3 multiplied by the square root of 3 multiplied by the square root of 15. Okay, so now in a similar way to which we simplify algebraic expressions, where we're combining the regular numbers and the, well, in algebra I guess it'd be the pronumerals that you combine, but in this case it's whatever we've got in the square roots. So 2 multiplied by 3 is 6, and recalling from before, if you have square root of a multiplied by square root of b, that'll be the same as the square root of a times b. Has that gone off the edge of the screen? Or I think I'm still on there. Cool. So that's going to leave us with 6 times the square root of 45. I remembered that one eventually. Very good. Okay. So that's kind of like part 1 done. Now I'll think of numbers that are square numbers that can fit into 45. So factor pairs of that, got 1 and 40. It's going to skip to what I know it is because I know that 5 is going to fit into 45 9 times, and 9 is a square number. So again, I'll rewrite that as 6 square root 9 times 5. Square root of 9 is 3. 3 lots of 6 are 18. So my final answer for that one is 18 square root of 5. Hooray. Okay, so that's kind of like the basic sort of skills that you need to be able to do. So you've got simplifying individual square roots. You could then make like terms and add and subtract. You might have to do a combination of multiplying, so multiplying regular numbers and the square roots too. Dividing works in the same way, by the way. And yeah. So any questions, please get in touch. Otherwise, good luck in your study.